In this video, I'll show you how I got surrounded, losing me this battle, and explain how you can do it too. Seriously though. We'll go together through each step, from terrain analysis to forces composition and battle plan to execution, learning from my mistakes so that you don't have to suffer the same fate. This is a game from Digital League Season 12 Early Middle Ages bracket. I take control of Rus, while my opponent, Frederick02, is mastering Indian Hindu North forces. Success and failure starts by analyzing the terrain. Immediately, we see a large river feature on the left side, with a washed-away crossing in the center that is now impassable. The only crossings are south and north. As there is no crossing in the center of the map, the left side of the battlefield beyond the river is more or less irrelevant. We are only gonna be utilizing about 2/3 of the battlefield here. That also means that our scope of maneuver on the left-hand side is restricted, and so a natural choice for the left flank would be something slow and heavy to anchor it. There is also a hill in the center right, with rough ground to its right, with an open ground towards the center of the battlefield. Closer to the opponent's deployment zone, in the center and left, there are big swaths of rough ground. Just from these assessments, we can already have an idea of favorable troop positions for both the opponent and ourselves. And we will take this one step further by looking at army rosters. Indian Hindu North Army must field a minimum of 1 unit of elephants. These are absolute juggernauts of a unit, who disrupt cavalry just by being near them, with the caveat that they are vulnerable to missile fire and they have extreme aversion to the difficult terrain. They can also bring superior Indian Lancers, who are devastating on the charge, and a minimum of 2 units of Indian Lancers who are still deadly on a charge, if not as good as their superior equivalents. Compared to Rus cavalry, we can only bring 3 units of armored cavalry, who have a bit more armor but only carry light spear instead of lance, making them prone to avoiding charges and losing out on a charge versus Indian superior Lancers. Where we would usually have a slight advantage is with nomad horse archers. They can be used to keep at a distance and whittle down opponents' forces, avoiding charges and setting up possible flanks. However, the issue here is that if my opponent decides to go heavy on the cavalry, I would be outnumbered, and just by that fact alone, horse archers would lose a lot of their utility. They can also take light horse archers and Indian light horse, excellent harassers and perfect at chasing down light foot. However, while we can't bring as many, we still have light nomad horse archers that can be used to counter this. Next, we come to foot. Opponent must take a minimum of 2 units of Indian close fighters, who are medium foot with light spear and sword, making them excellent on the charge, being able to maneuver and hold difficult terrain, and very decent in melee afterwards. They are disadvantaged versus heavy foot in the open, and so if we can engage them with our offensive shield wall in the open, that should work in our favor. They must also field a minimum of 4 Indian archers, and while the terrain is not ideal for the opponent, he can still make it work given that enough medium foot is taken to protect the archers. Our selection is restricted to only 3 masked archers formations, and so the opponent would be able to outshoot us. Both me and my opponent can take light foot. They can take up to 8 formations, while I can only take 5. By now, it should be pretty obvious that our opponent has a much more versatile army and will be outmatching us in everything apart from melee foot. So, what would be the most advantageous force selection for my opponent, and which way would they set up? If I was playing Indians, I would go heavy on elephants, superior lancers, light foot, and light cavalry, with the rest of the forces taken as a mix of archers and medium foot. Light foot would screen the main force, with elephants deployed in order to fit between the 2 patches of rough ground, and medium foot and archers deployed in checkered formation in order to allow archer utilization and protection, taking the rough ground and holding it. Cavalry would take left flank or a right side if looking from my current perspective. But we are playing as Rus, so given what we know, in order to ensure a win here, we must stack terrain advantages in our favor. We must utilize that central hill as our anchor. Smart play would be to deploy light foot skirmishers up front, heavy foot from the river up to the central hill, with masked archers taking the hill and cavalry and light cavalry on the right flank, where they can either flank or more likely work a delaying action on Indian cavalry. That is not what happens. Instead, Nomad Horse sets up on the left flank with the intention to move up to the rough ground and soften up Indian foot there, or attack Indian elephants if present. They will be working in conjunction with light archers operating from the bottom of the hill and attempting to take the rough ground in front of them, keeping an eye out for the elephants. On the right flank, Nomad Light Horse would be a screening force and will try and get behind the elephants and attempt to distract them more than destroy them. Second line of the left flank is superior armored cavalry, and they would be looking out for masked archers in the open, trying to take them out. In the center, shield wall is split into two formations led by two generals, who will be forming up the base of the hill and protecting masked archers set up on top of it. There are a number of issues with my setup and plan. Let's break it down. Setting up cavalry on the left flank is not a good idea, as the river constrains their scope of maneuver to the left, and the rough ground does the same to the immediate front. There would be no Indian archers in the open, as there is a perfectly good rough ground to whittle cavalry down from. Taking the hill is good, but only if both flanks are protected. As the things stand, my cavalry is not protecting the right flank and is at a severe disadvantage on the left. So I can expect for the opponent to certainly flank me on the right, and there is a chance of breakthrough on the left. As the battle opens, I am surprised to see that there are only 2 elephants on the field, but that allowed my opponent to take all of the Lancer cavalry. Guess what? They are set up for a perfect flank on my right. Opening moves are going well for Rus, and my light foot manages to disrupt 2 units of Indian equivalents in the first 2 turns. In hopes of delaying Indian cavalry, I decide to transfer armored noble cavalry to the right flank, where they should have been from the start. Crucially, I make no provisions to reinforce left flank with foot, and now it is very flexible, as Nomad Horse archers are designed to shoot and evade. That makes the central hill an island instead of a strong center. The rest of my forces move up as per the original plan. In return for disrupting his light foot in the last 2 turns, my opponent disrupts 2 of my light horse formations. More importantly, his lancers are moving forward with the intention of flanking my foot. However, we do manage to break one of the already disrupted light foot and fragment another. Attempting to extract light horse from charges, I maneuver some of them in such a way as to get behind the main lancer formation, with a view of skirting his forces and starting to harass the elephants. While this is not a mistake, my preoccupation with elephants rules a lot of my decisions this game. I decide to move up Nomad Horse archers and concentrate fire on his javelin, but they fail to disrupt. This is a mistake. I should have lured Lightfoot in the open and attempted to chase them down, most likely catching a unit or 2 as they attempt to evade. Highlighting the mistake, opponent disrupts 2 of our Nomad Horse archers on the left. He manages to double chase and rout our light horse with his lancers, while the rest of his force moves up. 1 unit of Indian close fighters charges in, chasing my Lightfoot, overextending the unit. On the right flank, lancers are still going long and are setting up quite a worrying flanking situation. However, the unit that broke my light horse pursues right into my noble cavalry that was transferring to the right flank, leaving that unit out of position. We finally managed to disrupt his javelin, but I really don't like the position of my Nomad Horse archers. They are hemmed in, already weakened, and are unable to move forward. On the right flank, seeing an opportunity, we charge his overextended lancers 3 times, and he manages to disrupt 1 of the units that charged him. In the center, We seize the opportunity handed to us and engage the overextended Indian close fighters. Turn 5 is where things begin to spiral and left flank is taken apart. Nomad horse archers see multiple charges, they refuse to take them, and some are hot and fragmented, others break. While a sneaky Indian Lancer cavalry lurking behind their main force overruns and charges my sub-general in the rear, unable to wait twice in the same turn, sub-general unit is disrupted on impact. On the right flank, Lancer cavalry is moving up and they're now in the rear of our foot formations, with only 1 unit of foot and 2 disrupted noble cavalry units to slow them down. Seeing elephants move up, we managed to kill 2. Unfortunately, they maintain their formation and do not suffer a drop in cohesion. Our extended unit of Indian close fighters is pushed back and fragmented. That does bring my shield wall out of position and forces me to support them with another unit. Limping remains of the nomad horse formations on the left, in order to avoid being completely destroyed, are starting to shift to the right flank. Sub-general unit is still holding its own, but it's only a matter of time before they are broken and center gets enveloped from the left. We do manage to disrupt Indian light cavalry unit in the center, and our sub-general charges their shield wall, managing to break the unit of Indian close fighters fragmented earlier. I keep worrying about elephants, and my light nomad horse engages, but fails to dispatch even one on the right flank. Something has to be done to slow down Indian lancers. Foot and rallied cavalry moves up to attempt that. Disrupted noble cavalry takes the best position it can on top of the hill, with a hope that it can take a charge and survive. Offensive shield wall charges enemy general engaged in melee. While we lose that charge, this helps our commander-in-chief to dispatch enemy sub-general, disrupting engaged lancers in the process. On the left flank, our nomad horse sub-general formation gets double charged and is fragmented. More importantly, Indian close fighters charge a light foot and manage to get behind our main lines, with only 1 unit there to stop them. On the right flank, our disrupted cavalry on top of the hill decides that even with the elevation advantage, it is better off avoiding the charge and is chased off the hill, leaving our flanks exposed. Light horse is chased away from the center to the right flank, gets charged and routed. Indian lancers overrun and smash into my noble cavalry, disrupting them on impact. In the center, our light foot moves towards the right flank elephants, finally disrupting them. We chase Indian light horse into our foot and charge it, fragmenting it on impact. I was hoping for a rout here, and this would turn out to bite our shield wall in the rear next turn. Commander-in-Chief charges his noble cavalry into an existing melee to assist disrupted comrades, but that cannot save our cavalry from fragmenting. On the left flank, nomad horse archer sub-general unit finally breaks. My opponent showcases excellent tactical fundamentals as my shield wall is charged and anchored, while another unit of Indian close fighters moves in, threatening to flank, ready to charge in next turn. Our light horse gets chased all the way from the center to the left flank, is surrounded, double charged, fragments and breaks. On the right flank, our shield wall engaged with light horse gets charged in the rear by Lancer cavalry and is disrupted on impact, while previously fragmented noble cavalry breaks. Our right flank is really like a sieve. I simply do not have enough units to stop all the Indian lancers, and they're free to wreak havoc in the flanks and rear of our forces. Thankfully, our fragmented nomad horse archers rallies, and we attempt to zone out Indian close fighters from charging our engaged shield wall in the flank. We keep attempting to fragment elephants on the right flank with light foot, with literally 0 results. Finally, I decide that masked archers must engage units threatening the rear of our forces rather than the elephants, but this is too little, too late. And as my light cavalry is zoned out on the right flank and unable to charge fragmented lancers, it shoots at them. But that doesn't really do much. Furthermore, next turn, it's not only going to get chased away, but would also set up a multiple flanking charges on my separated right flank by overrunning the charge. In the center, I spent some time deliberating my moves and managed to find 2 least optimal ones. Job well done! First, I fall back with one of the shield walls, and second, I charge the elephants and get disrupted on impact. On the right flank, shield wall moves up to zone out elephants, and another one, having dispatched light horse, turns about to start heading in support of the cavalry scrap. To add insult to an injury, right flank elephant rallies and our commander-in-chief gets charged in the rear, dropping a cohesion level. Things are looking grimmer than ever. On the left flank, nomad horse archers are chased away. This brings 2 formations of Indian close fighters, zoning out my other nomad horse and freeing the flanking unit to charge shield wall in the side. This charge fragments our shield wall on impact, and it breaks with an Indian Lancer charge later on. Envelopment is now fully complete as Indian Lancer cavalry from the right flank charges amassed archers, disrupting them on impact. On the right flank, we had to turn our shield wall about in order to face 2 units of Lancers, and as expected, do get charged in the back by the third one. At least we do not lose a cohesion level as we're not currently in melee. A couple of our formations rally, but at this stage that would not have a huge impact on the battle. Following maneuvering cavalry in order to set up some flanking opportunities, we charge our shield wall in the flank of Lancer cavalry, engaging our commander-in-chief. However, as it's a foot charging cavalry, we do not get an automatic cohesion drop from the cavalry. Shield wall that turned about last turn and was getting ready to assist right flank does so. This could be a big mistake, as there is a threat of Lancer cavalry breaking through my disrupted archers. However, archers hold for now. On the left flank, we charge Indian close fighters who ganged up on our shield wall engaging elephants, but this is a mistake as our unit is already disordered, and they will be simply slowly ground down. Shield wall that was camping out at the foot of the hill turns to the left and rear in order to not be charged in the rear by the encirclement. On the right flank, our light foot finally manages to disrupt the elephants again, and looking to capitalize on that, I charge in my shield wall, who promptly loses the charge, but holds firm. The game goes on for 3 more turns, but things pan out as you might imagine. Massed archers are charged and break. Lancers overrun them and sandwich, then break shield wall behind them. 2 formations of shield wall, including our sub-general, engaging elephants on the left flank, auto-break from losing over 50% of men. And our armored noble cavalry on the right flank loses over 50% of men. Commander-in-chief is killed, and they auto-break. Not all went bad, and we managed to break Indian close fighters on the left, 3 units of Indian Lancers on the right, and right flank elephant. But that was simply not enough to save Rus' army from losing heart and routing from the field of battle. As a result, I lost 53% of my force, only taking 25% of my opponents. Not analyzing the terrain correctly and setting up cavalry on the left flank with no scope of maneuver made nomad horse archers irrelevant for most of the battle. Coupled with withdrawing noble cavalry to the right flank and not moving foot to compensate allowed my opponent to push and break my left flank. Best course of action here would have been to move foot to the left flank and transfer both nomad horse and noble cavalry to the right, in order to have weight of numbers to stop Indian Lancers enveloping from the right, strengthening both flanks instead of weakening them. As things stood, right flank defense was a sieve, allowing for my opponent to get behind my forces. I was also so concentrated on elephants that they influenced most of my decisions in this battle. As a result, I held my troops in reserve instead of maneuvering and pushing the center to engage Indian archers, and not use my own massed archers to engage approaching Indian foot. Now that you know how to avoid being surrounded, you would want to know top 5 mistakes to avoid sabotaging your own Field of Glory games, so go and watch it right here. And remember kids, do war games, not war.